afternoon, everybody. I think for starters, I'm going to try my level best to ensure that I don't get distracted by all the gastronomy and all the fun fandom around anime that's present around us. So we'll try to focus the conversation to the topic at hand. I think a very important time to be having this conversation, specifically because we are almost at an intersection where we know that the hunger for storytelling is now met or in the flux of technology, and animation just seems to be that segue or that bridge which is really connecting cultures across the globe. So it's a tremendous time to be having this conversation, and each of you represent a different part of this puzzle. All of you have different experiences, so I'm going to try and dig at those and get as much perspective and nuance that we can for the audience right here. So I think animation is also one of the most phenomenal ways to be able to increase the longevity of any specific character or a universe, right? And I'm sure all of you in your experiences or the brand collabs that you've had, you've also seen or been testament to that, because it's really beautiful to be able to bring some brand universe to life and see consumers interact with your brand in a very different way to an IP that has been part of their life for really long as well. So I think the first thing that we'll talk about today is, maybe Harry, you could take the question first. So this is about bringing a Japanese brand story to Indian audiences, right? So you're essentially translating cultural narratives. How has animation and or character-driven storytelling played a role in the cultural bridge that you've observed?
Yeah. So thank you so much, everybody on the panel and guests. My name is Harry. I run Kikkoman in India. As you know, Kikkoman is a global brand. We are in about 100 countries, and our journey in India has started about 4.5 years ago. But I think it's all about storytelling, if I may say. And when you try to communicate, I think people resonate with pictures or a story which paints pictures, if you know what I mean. So at Kikkoman, we are Japan's #1 soy sauce, which is actually naturally brewed. And you know how in India, everything is moving more towards pure and natural. And we want to get people to understand that this is a better alternative by using Kikkoman soy sauce. So what we did is we actually made a Kikkoman manga, right? So this is like a story where maybe the chef or the restaurant owner, they don't know anything, the fact that Kikkoman soy sauce can be a better ingredient. But using manga, using anime, it's, I think, about getting people to be pictorially aware. And an anime is also very encompassing in the sense that, there's music, there's movement, there's fun. The storytelling, I think Japan is very good at that. And we've developed this Kikkoman manga where people are picking it up, students and also chefs and everybody, and they think, oh, wow, I can relate to this product much better than a salesperson going and say, well, please buy Kikkoman soy sauce.
I think that's a great point, and that's fundamentally what we're talking about today, because storytelling is really able to drop down a lot of walls and barriers that people might have in terms of even entries to categories or just openness towards different products. So that really leads us to the next question, which is to understand more about what these brand universes are like, right? So many a times we come across a conversation, and I'm sure, Mitali, you would be one to experience it firsthand, wherein you see that there are a lot of IP owners or people who've built some really passionate characters who tell you that this is going to be the next big thing on the horizon. But not every brand and IP collaboration or marriage works, right? So how or what is the criteria that you really have in mind when you're building something, or firsthand maybe that this IP is just not going to work, or sometimes you see something which is maybe not, it has some odds, but it might have the potential to become a cultural phenomenon.
Firstly, thank you. It's great to be here. And audience, thank you very much for being here. Well, I think, honestly, it's not as black and white. So you obviously can't say that an IP is not going to do well or this is going to be the IP. You honestly don't know where or which, is going to be the next big IP. It's more about putting your bets on it, whether it's for the licensor or the licensee. But having said that, I think the main filter or the first level filter is always the audience, right? That is non-negotiable. So you have to look at, the brand consumer base, you have to look at the fandom for an IP, you have to marry the two, you have to ensure that the DNA of both of them are the same. Because if that's not happening, then yes, you can confidently say that a collaboration is not going to work. Secondly, what you really need to look at is the scalability. So when I say scalability, I mean, is that IP grand enough to kind of take outside of the regular? So, can you do more than just limited edition packaging, limited edition product? Can you take it outside of the universe and do something which is maybe tech immersive, AR, VR, gamification? Retasha here is in the consumables business, and I'm sure I'll resonate with her, because this is what the brands are today asking us for, something that is more a 360 ecosystem for the consumer rather than a one-level consumption, right? I think the other thing is obviously, synergies. When I say synergies, again, in terms of both the brand and the IP, can you really amplify the entire storytelling, the narrative, without really overshadowing what the IP originally stands for? So that's also very, very critical. I think these are some of the main factors. Just very quickly, to kind of explain this better, one of the recent collaborations that we did was a really interesting one with IPL. Not too many happening in this space, but that was one of them we did, and which was pretty successful, which was with Mumbai Indians, Hardik Pandya and Kung Fu Panda. Any of you can tell me why Hardik Pandya and Kung Fu Panda? Okay, it's because Hardik Pandya is also known as Kung Fu Panda in the team. He's lovingly nicknamed that. So we thought, why not marry the two? And the best way of doing it really was to create like a universe with really cool creative assets, and then launch a range, do a music video, basically get the fan involved in both the worlds and immerse them in both the worlds. So yeah, that's...
I think it's a very important point you spoke about, Mitali, which is earlier when we used to think about brand IPs and integrations with a cultural IP, you could often look at it being maybe a character suddenly slapped onto a product and they say, okay, this is the essence of it, let's just explore it. Or maybe that's the promotional technique, and that's pretty much where it used to get limited to. But today the expectation of the consumer is also invite me into your world, tell me that you really understand the value of this cultural IP. So I think that is a very important experience. Anybody else would like to take the question and maybe share a highlight or a cautionary tale that you've seen hasn't worked in your experience?
I just want to add on to Mitali what she just shared is when we also look at IPs, we look at the values, right? It has to match. There has to be a good collaboration to work. It's very important for the brand and the IP to have common values. So definitely that also forms a very important data point for us to consider when we take up IPs. Yeah.
So this is absolutely important for us to understand that real stories, real lessons really make or break the marketers' conversations and confidence both. I think that brings us to a very important point. I think, Retasha, back to you. This is something that gets everybody very sweaty, and that question is about measurement. So when you're looking at blending brand and cultural IPs, it all seems very exciting because you're tapping into pop culture, something that's really brewing in passion. But then how do you make the needle move for your brand? So from a sales perspective, especially people in marketing often feel like, okay, I found the next big thing to really make or get some headway with my consumers. But then the sales folks will be, is this really going to be worth my money, or how are you going to deliberate and explain the ROI on this? So what is your take on that, especially in the consumables business that you are in? How do you feel like the consumer is actually making that shift, and how do you measure it back in?
Yeah. So definitely evaluation measurements, are very important. And when we collaborate with any IP, we look at various metrics of measurement. So if, for instance, if we are to look at the communication message that we are carrying out for that particular campaign, we will do a pre-post brand lift study wherein we look at, are there any shifts in the brand in terms of awareness, recall, so those kind of parameters. If you're looking at content, how shareable it has been, what has been the engagement levels. So these are the metrics we look at when it comes to the communication part of it. When it comes to sales numbers, which everyone wants to see, definitely, we look at various data points. One is typically, obviously, the retail sales data. We look at the sales shift, the sales lift that has happened. the kind of shelf share the brand has been able to capture, with this new collaboration, for looking at brand loyalties, kind of, to measure that. Repeat purchases, we look at data points like household panel data, because that typically gives you a lot intel on the brand loyalty, where it is headed to an extent. It tells you about the shifts that are happening and the repeat purchases. So these are the different data points we sort of correlate and then derive this whole, number, for this kind of a collaboration. So that's how we generally do. Yeah.
Thanks, Retasha. I think I'll deliver the same question to Pranav as well, because you are almost doing, say, cultural IPs at a blink of an eye, and then there is a new cultural IP that you guys are building. So how, in that case, do you measure the success of any particular IP, and how do you know that where do we target or re-navigate ratio of monies towards?
Right. First things first, I think there are a lot of anime fans in the crowd, and this is an awfully quiet audience for a heap of anime fans. So if you're an anime fan and if you're here, can you please make some noise? That sounded like fans of DC. If you're anime fans, can you make some noise, please? There you go. I think that's what the Soul Store actually does. We bring the noise into what is rather turned out to be a quiet apparel market. It's actually beyond IPs. It's Soul Store, actually, like, the word IP is so fancy, right? Like, you throw the word IP into a classroom or, say, a group setting where you're just sitting and chilling with your friends, talking about fandoms, because that's where fandoms truly come. It's 4 people, or not even 4. You don't need friends, actually. You just need a Reddit account. So you're probably on social media, you're discussing fandoms, and maybe people don't even know what an IP is called. But what everyone knows, or what rather everyone feels, is what a fandom is and what fandom means. That's where the Soul Store comes in. So while I can take a lot of time, go into the metrics and the statistics of how data works and how IP's success is determined, I won't waste people's time with that. What we truly believe is that if we build a community through an IP, that's success. And that's what the Soul Store is all about. It's not a customer base, it's a community. Because through and through, we're a brand made by fans for fans. That's the whole idea. We are people who are die-hard fans, who never had the avenue, or rather the opportunity, to buy licensed products. If you were an anime fan, your nearest anime merchandising stall was probably a local train station, where you have fake products just lined up for the grand price of 350 rupees. So that t-shirt lasts you for 2 days. What we wanted to give the fans is what they deserve, which is authentic merchandise from the very best and at the very best place, which for any fan is the Soul Store. So even myself, I was a massive fan of all these IPs when I was in college. Literally grew up wearing Soul Store, and now it's no longer a young brand. It's a brand that's been here, it's building communities, and that's what we're going to do till the end of time. Yeah.
Maybe just to add to that, I think it's all about, I don't really like the word about authenticity. I like the word originality, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Because authenticity is a little bit, what's authentic, right? But somebody who's original is going to be original, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And somebody who's been from Japan, to see so many anime lovers in Japan growing in India, it's such an inspiration. But it's taken a long time to come to here. But finally, we have more and more original products. In the same way, Kikkoman is an original product, your product is an original product, and these customers or fans are real people with real ambitions, and that's really this sense of community building. It's very exciting. Look at today. How many people have come today? Thanks to our friends at Anime India. And I think today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow is for us as a Japanese company. It's a very great collaboration between India and Japan to see more and more people sharing experiences, sharing the story, sharing the love. Thank you.
I think that's really interesting because it brings us to two different dimensions of what measurement really looks like. One that brings of what measurement, the softer, intangible one, which all of us would love to be a part of, which is a thriving community that really stands in the face of any adversity and defends your brand and says that I'm truly, passionately committed to the Soul Store. And on the other hand, we also have the mention that Retasha made about talking about brand lift and also the commercial success that's associated with it. So I think both in terms need to be oscillated at a balance so that you're able to really meet the numbers as well as the thriving community we are looking for. So thank you for that. Another question that we have, and I think Tarandeep would be a very brilliant person to have this conversation with, because we are at a junction where there's a lot of intangibility and access and overstimulation that happens to people today. Since they're consistently online and in a digital world, building real world immersive experiences using an IP can be extremely challenging, right? Because you have diminishing attention spans by the go. So how do you hold attention for someone who walks into your doors and says, okay, I want to be fully committed? So that I think when we were talking to Tarandeep earlier during our catch up also, he mentioned it may be difficult to get someone through the doors once because I really can't distill the essence of everything they're going to experience at KidZania. But once you're in, you're truly committed. So can you walk us through what that experience is like of building something immersive and real time, breathing and living?
So, good evening everyone. My name is Taran. I work for KidZania and I hope a lot of you would have moved through the cycle and been to KidZania. Those who've not been to KidZania, we are a world where kids can role play as a pilot, as a chef, or also as a superhero. Coming back to your question, we are all about bringing the IPs to life. So what we provide is a platform to show brand love. Now, how we do that is through multiple aspects, but I'll just share some case studies which are close to animation. So we had this animation activity where we were teaching kids about how they can learn how stop motion works. And it had a visitation, and out of our 100 role plays, it was 86th or 87th. Okay, luckily our pitch went through. We got a partner on board, Tinkle, and they completely revamped the activity. So now what we brought on table is kids were not coming to KidZania and just taking a picture with Chacha Chaudhary. We created an entire scene where they became Chacha Chaudhary. They thought about what the scene would be, how the animals would come, where they are attacking, how Chacha Chaudhary rescues them, make the story, get everything, and that's their own product. And it's since then been one of our top 10 activities. So for us, animation is a medium. It's a strong medium which we use. So we have few role plays which are based on animation, just like this one. We have an animation dubbing studio, which is loved by parents equally. So kids can go, parents can go. There is a scene which is pre-drawn, and then kids, parents, they are dubbing and they can take it back. So these help us to, take the story forward. But at the same time, like I was sharing, we have a lot of brands who now come to us and keep reinforcing that in our activity, please use animation to connect with these children. So a lot of briefing videos are now used through animation. Sometimes we use their mascots, their characters, or we use our characters. And just to sum up, I'm loving the vibe here. I just had a very small tour of the expo. I hope, we can really find a partner and probably create an experience where kids can, become a golem. So that's eventually my dream, as a marketer. I would want to have an activity where they do the real motion, we do the motion capture. Kids can enact a scene and actually see themselves, let's say, as a Superman. So that is, I think, where we could go, but really happy to be here and share and learn from the fellow panelists.
Thanks, Taran. Yeah, I was just coming to you, Mitali. I think you would have, she works with a lot of phenomenal brands. So I think you would most certainly have some insights to share with us on what these immersive experiences look like.
Clearly you saw I was itching to say something. So of course what Taran is doing is, extremely large scale when you speak about KidZania and what they're doing and what their offering is. But just, representing brands like Universal Studios and Netflix, Crunchyroll, we have a wide portfolio, of course. We also have our own vertical, which is a B2C vertical, which is called A47, where we do these really, really cool India stories, India brands, right? So we have the official license for an ISRO, we have the official license for defense, we are doing a lot of Bollywood movies. So our objective is, you know, when we can wear ISRO, why wear NASA? That's the objective. What I'm trying to come to is, you know, when you are trying to build brands like that, building an immersive experience or something which the consumers can experience outside of product, simply means doing some kind of mall activations, you know, doing a really lovely setup which allows kids to explore what ISRO is, you know, what Gaganyaan is. I'm actually wearing a Gaganyaan t-shirt also because we're launching a Gaganyaan line tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, it could literally get as simple. I mean, and the reason I say simple is it need not be so extensive that it takes like a year to set up, or, you know, so extensive that it takes an X amount. You can literally do weekend events with malls. You can do a lot of multiple retail activations. Some of the brands we represent have a whole lot of mascots, so we do a lot of these meet and greets. So basically, even these little steps are actually big steps to creating that entire experience, which can of course then be scaled up depending on the budgets you have and, you know, the plan that the brand or the IP has and so on.
Harry, would you like us to also maybe talk a little bit more about the parallels that you spoke about earlier in our conversation? So since Japan is way ahead in terms of helping cultural IPs reach across the world, and I'm sure a lot of passionate people exist in this room as well who could maybe just talk about the different experiences they have, the different dreams they have about just manifesting, being in those different realms of cultural IPs. Do you feel that there is any specific thing that Indian IPs now need to unlock that haven't unlocked previously, which you have maybe learned from your experiences of building the Japanese cultural IPs?
Yeah, so I have been now in India now 18 years. And I think when I first came, there was this Chota Beam. There was this thing that was happening, and I think it's still a strong IP. And for me, what is amazing is that, you know, Japan is, I think, an incredible country, and I hope all of you will fly All Nippon Airways and fly directly to come. There's a flight now, I think, 5 days a week to Japan. But what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot that India can learn from Japan, but also Japanese can also learn a lot from India. So if you look at the history of Ramayana, and if you look at the history of the Indian mythology, I think there's a lot of IP, and obviously don't forget Bollywood and all of the things that's going around there, that there's so much possibility of exchange. And I think for me, 18 years is like this very, very short time. But I love your country. It's so diverse, so incredible, and so many different foods you can eat and enjoy. You can really do so much travel. I was last week in, what is it called? Ladakh, Leh. And, you know, it's just brilliant, right? So there, I see, there must be a story that can be told about Ladakh. So if you look at tourism, if you look at food, if you look at travel, if you look at fashion, there's so many stories that can be told using the lens of anime or cartoons or manga or you know, that doesn't have to be only in India. The Japanese can come here and do it. And Indians, I think more and more Indians, I hope all of you will come to Japan and be my guests and we can have some sake together or sushi, right? But what I'm saying is that there is so much more interaction that is possible between our two countries. And who knows, maybe there can be an Anime India, as in Anime Japan in Japan, or Anime India in Japan, or Anime Japan in India. I mean, there's so many sort of cross collaborations which I think are possible.
Thank you. Pranav, this question is to you, and it's in tandem with what Harry was just mentioning. So, how many interesting, or maybe if you could just spotlight a couple of interesting Indian cultural IPs that you felt have some phenomenal potential that you're like, okay, I think this is going to be something that's really intriguing and it has the potential to build that thriving community that you were talking about?
Everyone gets the nice question, and I get the most controversial question where I get to berattle, pick and choose between the IPs. As a mother, I'd like to say all my IPs are great IPs. But, yes, thank you, sir. Are you a license owner? I wish. But anyways, So we also work with ISRO. That's one very interesting license for us. We have Shimaru working with us. Shimaru, you might know for legendary films like Fir Hera Fairy, Golmaal, all three of them. Can't pick and choose there either. Don't consider anything after the third part. What we really love about Indian IPs is Indians really know how to follow something. When we follow something, we don't follow them. We follow them, like literally. You know, and that infection goes around the world. So I had the honor of visiting Japan a few months ago, and I learned a lot of interesting things there. And I think everyone over here would love to know this. Do you know which Indian film in Japan draws more crowds in Japanese theaters than in theaters in Mumbai? I will be shocked to know the answer. Right? The answer is Bahubali. People are crazy for Bahubali over there. You have no idea. And the worst part is, I'm a South Indian. I haven't watched Bahubali. Don't throw me out of the panel for that. But I haven't watched it, unfortunately. And I have a friend who I was with in Tokyo. We were roaming around, doing things which I won't talk about here. But we were just talking about Japan, and they said that, you know, Bahubali has such a big fandom. People cosplay to watch a Bahubali movie in Japan. And I'm like, wow, that is called love. And that love is something that is very similar in India as well. Where in Japan you have people showing so much love to anime. Like, you know, cosplay, for example, right? Cosplay is devotion. To sit and meticulously make every part. And here's a very interesting thing about Japanese people, and it always has been. They don't leave anything at the 99th percent. They go all the way, or they don't go at all. They will give you what you see or what you deserve. Even when you go to any restaurant in Japan, they display food items outside, and what you see is exactly what you get. Not like, you know, not even a single garnishing is here and there. It's really interesting. But that's where the word passion comes in, and that's where the whole Indian IPs come in. For us, Indian IPs are all about passion. Indians are passionate about IPs they like. But sometimes Indians are not always passionate about all things Indian, you know. So, like even Mitali mentioned, right? You have the tier 1 city kids wearing NASA. They probably know nothing about NASA. You have kids wearing US Army or US Polo, or you have like someone wearing an English flag. So, what the Soul Store does best is that sometimes we go beyond relying on IPs. We have a very, very proud original vertical. We don't stay put at just t-shirts. We've gone beyond t-shirts. Everything I'm wearing right now is a Soul Store original. I'm not wearing any license so that I don't get debarred from speaking on stage. This is all approved by us. The Soul Store has a very, very talented design team which we rely on. And what we did recently, which is very interesting, is we came out with something of our own called the Freedom Collection, which is a tribute to the Indian Army. You know, because everyone keeps demanding designs for superheroes. So we said, you know what, why not give you a collection for the real superheroes, people who are not spoken about, people who are a news headline for one day and then forgotten the next day, people who are celebrated on 15th August and 26th January on our national holidays and then forgotten the next day. We said that we want you to be beyond just media. We want you to be present. We want people to wear what the army stands for and what freedom truly stands for. And that is something that we dabbled into. So apart from all the Indian IPs, Soulso wanted to create something of their own. And then of course, whenever there is a Indian sensation, we've had IPL licenses back in the day. People love IPL. I don't think there is like a second question to that. We've had IPL licenses. We've worked with any and every IP. We're working with some other IPs, which if I mention here, my office mates will be very, very angry about. But yeah, something is cooking, and that's all I can say. But when you ask me to choose between an IP, I genuinely can't, because everything is equally awesome.
I think there's a lot of overlap in terms of the thought process that I'm sure all of us share, which is that the more closer we get to the idea of India, whether it's in terms of the values, the people, personalities, or our own stories, the closer we have a chance to hit goal. And I think thank you so much for sharing your perspectives with that. Another thought I was just having while you guys were talking about it we are all seeing the success of mythology, and even in the conversations that we had before this, the panel before this, there was the mention of how Indian mythology is really going to be the next big thing for animation across the world. And we are seeing this really make numbers that even if the marketing material around it hasn't been promising, but the final product really gets the eyeballs and the passion that's associated, because that's what truly speaks when you are building something with all heart and commitment and you're going 100% all in, as Pranav was mentioning. That's when you really have the opportunity to get more people excited about what you're building, and then who knows, we have the next most intriguing, I won't mention any name because, you know, I don't know which anime fan will come to hit me and say, why didn't you say my anime? But yeah, thank you for that. So we've also been talking a lot about amazing partnerships, measuring successes, but there's some nitty-gritties that we need to also be talking about, because there are a lot of people here who are building IPs firsthand, and it might be a great cheat code for them to just get an insider's perspective of what the fine print is, which not many people really read, because we sometimes get lost in the middle of passion or just the hope that the other person, you're really getting what I mean, right? Because this is what I'm building and I'm really excited for it. I hope you see the vision I have. Yes. But beyond that, we're also looking at the fine print that not many people see. So there is the idea of legalities and business perspective as well. So to that, my question would be, what should companies know about the do's and don'ts of licensing animated IPs for commercial use? Is there any specific experience that you've had, maybe that you would like to share with us? Pranav, Mitali, anybody can take this question. Retasha, you can take this as well. And so can you, Tarandeep. It's an open forum. Not directly at your
The best
seat.
person's right here. I'm just saying.
Since I love legal and Pranav knows how much we love to impose a lot of guardrails and do's and don'ts. Also, by the way, since he spoke so much about Bahubali, we represent Bahubali as well. So you know which is the next one we are pitching to you, Soulstar, yeah. So I think the biggest guardrail or the biggest thing from a legality perspective is just respect the IP, right? Because the IP comes with years and years of heritage, a lot of brand building, storytelling, and they are right when they have certain restrictions in terms of how it should be used, why it should be used a certain way. I think the Japanese brands, especially the anime brands, are probably the most guarded when it comes to their IPs. We've seen, especially with somebody like the Soulstar, an anime IP takes almost 7 to 8 months to actually launch from the time we sign on the IP. Vis-a-vis, let's say, maybe an Indian brand, while it has its own challenges, starting with, maybe no refined style guide, so it needs to actually start from creating artwork and so on and so forth. It has its own challenges. But at the same time, the other international IPs, primarily anime ones, they do have their restrictions, and we recognize that and we need to respect that. The biggest thing that I think a licensee, when they're signing on any brand, any IP, is to understand that there will be a certain timeline that they need to work around. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months also maybe when it comes to anime. But yeah, that's I think the main thing. The second most important thing is that know what the rights are when it comes to a license. Because when a license is being taken, it doesn't necessarily include everything. Now, if I have to give you an example of this, let's say we have Netflix, there's Squid Game. Let's say you take the license for Squid Game for apparel or for any consumable product or for any category for that matter, and you want to promote this on various platforms. Now, it's not necessary that you automatically have the rights also for the music of Squid Game. Now, the rights could reside with somebody else altogether. So if you need to use that, you actually need to take an additional license for that as well. Let's say there is Suits, okay, Suits, which everybody knows, Harvey Specter. So it's again not necessary that because you have the Suits license, you have the license to use Harvey Specter as a talent on your product. We recently launched a whiskey with Valentine and Suits, which looked really cool, but there were massive restrictions. They wanted to use talent and we could not use talent on that. So these are all restrictions, these are all legalities that I think all the brands need to respect and work around. And there are many more, but I won't bore people with more legal stuff. So.
Just to add on that, that's the sort of licensor perspective. But you have to realize that what is good is usually copied, right? So if you look at on the history, like growing up with Doraemon, you know how many Doraemons are there which are not the true IP, if you know what I mean. So it's a double-edged sword because if you're successful, people are going to copy you. But I think it's also important to protect the rights by educating the customer. See, the customer says, I want real IP products. I want an original product. This education has to be industry-wide. And I think India also can also work together with all of the IP holders around India and come to his store, which is authentic, no, sorry, original. You know, that I think is very important, whether it's KidZania or all of the other businesses, the IPs. I think the industry has to work together to educate the consumer to say, I want an original product, I want the real stuff, if you know what I mean.
Now, as someone who has, we've dealt with all of this, and let me tell you, I think anything that has to deal with marketing and IP comes with restrictions. We know that. We know it's a condition. It's something that you have to creatively work your way around. So, if a fan wants to buy a product, the best way to sell it to them is sell it to them with the fandom. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Attack on Titan? The first thing that will come to your mind is Shinzo Sasageo, which is the theme song. One of the best theme songs out there. You won't be able to use it. So, selling Attack on Titan merch without Attack on Titan music is difficult. Why? Because there are other brands which are not doing it legally, are doing it that way. So, for the views and social media, which is probably the best marketplace right now, the competition is difficult when you have to compete with people who are not following, or if they are not playing by the rules. To compete with them is difficult, which is why you try to rely on your community, which is where you know that when you build a name to a certain extent that all you need to do is put up an image saying Attack on Titan merch goes live now. You don't need music, you don't need anything. You just need your brand to claim that you're doing this. And the trust is so high because you've played by the books for a while that people know it's legit. So that's important. And you know, people have gone beyond just demanding t-shirts. They want bags, they want sneakers, they want bed sheets. There are people who want like customized bathrooms also at this point. Everyone wants everything for fandoms, right? The legalities for each product is different. The legalities for each for each design you use is different. And that is the challenge that the customer doesn't see. Actually, we don't want the customer to see it. We want the customer to just enjoy. If I go and show them the back and forth that folks in my office and Mitali's office have had, it'll suck the fun out of it. The fun is that they are getting the best to India.
You know, that you would demand from the IP. And that clears a lot of gray areas which you probably would assume. So I think clear gold definitions is very, very critical.
See, my 2 bits on this is we've done 7-year deals, we've done weird deals, but luckily when IPs partner with us, they come with their heart out. So they will give us access to anything and everything. But the basic rule, you know, they've spoken about the minor details, do's and don'ts. What we believe in, if don't read between the lines in legal. If it's there, it's there. If it's not there, it's not there. And rest, I'm sure, you know, they've just taken you through what different aspects of an IP could entail. But that's what we believe in. If it's not there, that means it's not there. Don't read it in between.
Sure, I think that brings us to the aspect of wanting to zoom back a little bit. So I think I'm working in an advertising agency. So we often have clients who say, okay, let's build an IP together. So that's a boardroom discussion. We sit, think, deliberate. Okay, we've got to do something. And everybody knows now that content or asset building is something that will really take you to the hearts and minds of your consumers, as well as be able to break the clutter that's otherwise available in the marketing jargon world. So if you were to give an advice to somebody who is building an IP today, brand side or even at the creator side, what is it that you would say that you need to keep in mind when you're building something ground up? Harry, would you like to take this first?
Very difficult question because I think we always only remember the brands which are left. So like Kikkoman's been around for 350 years. Just let that sink in, 350 years. So I think when you're trying to build an IP, I think the focus should be on longevity. You know what I mean? That is not a flash in the pan. It will take time to grow. You know, it might take years to grow, but it's something that you have to nurture. You like a plant. You have to water it. You have to have the sun. You have the nutrition. I think you have to aspire to become a brand that is 100 years, which, as you know, it's incredibly difficult to do in this day and age where attention spans at what? Is it 7 seconds or something like that? Or 4 seconds. Thank you. So in that respect, I think the ambition should be long term, but to be prepared to bear the brunt of the challenges because it's not going to be easy.
Would you like to take this question as well, Mitali or Retasha?
I think when you're building an IP, while the core values will stay the same, an IP has to be something that will evolve because your audiences will keep changing, generations keep changing. So if you're looking at a long-term IP, while staying, keeping the core values intact, you have to evolve and make it adaptable so that it's resonating with the audiences, at hand. So that I feel is very, very critical at that.
I think that brings us to the end of our conversation, and what a fab journey this has been. So we have established that platforms are going to change and new technologies are going to come, consumer behavior might change, but what continues to stay concurrent and true to us is if you are able to build something that you are strongly going to back and building it up with 100% heart and originality, as Harry said, we are on the right track. And at the end of the day, if you're able to connect people to culture and content, I think that's where the real goal lies. So thank you so much to each and every panelist who's been here. It's been a complete delight to chat with you and catch up on marketing, licensing 101 and much more. And thank you to the fab audience as well. Thank you so much for participating and being a part of this event. And I'm 100% waiting to go and attack the food stalls. Any recommendations are welcome backstage. Thank you so much and have a lovely evening, everybody.